Good afternoon. I'm Catrina Thompson, Chief of Police for the Winston-Salem Police Department. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to first acknowledge our mayor, Mayor Alan Joines, and some other elected officials. We have a member of our school board chair, Malashay Woodbury. Appreciate you being here. I hope I'm not overlooking another elected official. And also, of course, our law enforcement partner and our district attorney, Mr. Jim O'Neill. Additionally, I want to acknowledge Assistant City Manager Patrice Toney for being here. And also, I saw she's right here, our superintendent of our Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, Ms. Tricia McManus. On today's date, September 1st, 2021, at approximately 12:07 p.m., members of the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office and the Winston-Salem Police Department were dispatched to 342 Petrie Road, Mount Tabor High School, on a shooting. Forsyth County Sheriff's Office SRO advised a student had been shot and suspect was still on the loose. At that point, Mount Tabor High School went into immediate lockdown. Winston-Salem Police Department and the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, the Fire Department, and EMS all responded to Mount Tabor immediately to the school and entered the school to begin looking for the suspect and potential additional victims. One student was located with a gunshot wound. Medical responders began life-saving measures, and the injured student was transported to Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center, where he succumbed to his injuries. An intensive search of the school began for the suspect, who was identified to law enforcement. Law enforcement had been advised that the suspect had exited the school property. At this point, no known threat to Mount Tabor School exists, although the suspect has not been apprehended. Law enforcement officials are working to confirm the identity of the suspect, who is believed to also be a student of Mount Tabor High School. This investigation is in its preliminary stages, and additional information will be released at a later time. Law enforcement officials are working to reunite students with their families. For the safety of all students, a number of schools across our city also went into lockdown. At this time, those schools are no longer on lockdown. Our prayers and thoughts go out to the family of our deceased student, our Mount Tabor family, and our Winston-Salem Forsyth County family. I want to take this time to thank our law enforcement, local, state, and federal law enforcement partners, and our first responders. It's important to mention that we have law enforcement partners and first responders from most of our neighboring states. Most of our neighboring cities and counties. In my haste to provide you this information, I failed to call upon our mayor. So I'm going to ask Mayor Joines, please forgive me, and please step to the podium.
Chief, you never have to apologize for giving out the facts. Certainly this is a sad day for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, but moreover it's a sad day for the city of Winston-Salem and the county of Forsyth, as we experienced something we see on TV across the country, but we have been so fortunate here we have not had to experience that, but today we're facing it head on with the death of a student from Mount Tabor High School. On behalf of all the citizens, I thank the police department, the highway patrol, the sheriff's department who's taken the lead in this, as well as other partners for coming together quickly to secure the school and to work on resolving the issue. Our citizens offer our condolences and our thoughts and prayers to the family of the student who passed away today. We know it's going to be difficult for them going forward, but again, we're so sad that this happened in our city. We're thankful for the work of our law enforcement going forward. Chief, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'm going to call upon Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough, Jr., as it is Sheriff Kimbrough and his staff at the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office that is taking the lead on this case. Sheriff Kimbrough.
Good afternoon. This was sadness. This is probably another difficult day in Forsyth County, a very difficult day for me. A lot of people in need of prayer right now. The Miller family, his mother, Shannon. A lot of people in need of prayer. I want to thank all the partners across the state that showed up. FBI, DEA, ATL, Homeland, Highway Patrol, Probation Parole, ABC. I want to thank all of them. The call came out about, as Chief said, about 12:05, 12:07. I arrived in the school about 12:13 myself. After we secured the place and transported Mr. Miller to Baptist Hospital, I left Mount Tabor High School and I went to Baptist Hospital where I met with the family, his mother, Shannon. I told her that we would do everything humanly possible to find out, locate who was responsible for this. I hadn't cried in a while, but I've been crying since I left the hospital. And we all are in need of prayers right now. But what I will tell you is that, as Chief said, Mr. William Chavis Raynard Miller Jr. Transitioned today. He was a student at Mount Tabor. And what I would tell you is that this investigation is still continuing. As Chief Thompson said, that the suspect is still at large. We're still looking for him as well. My ask of the community is this, is that before you take to social media, before you take to the rumor mill, please give us a chance to give you the facts as they happen, as we get them. As always, we will keep with our mantra of being transparent. We will do that. Every chance I get, I will update you. Because as always, we're in this together. No matter how sad the day, we're going to get through this. We're still a safe community. I want you to know that. But the Miller family needs your prayers now. The children at the school needs your prayers. They were traumatized. The community needs your prayers. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Thomasville Police Department and the surrounding agencies that sent manpower here to answer calls. Because we are currently actively looking, searching, whatever adjective you want to describe for the person responsible for this. So, for right now, that's all I have to say is that my prayers are with the family. I told him, I gave his mother Shannon my word when I talked with her on the way down here that I would say her son's name, William Chavis Raynard Miller Jr. And so, what I like to do now is introduce friend of mine, the district attorney, Mr. Jim O'Neill.
As a father of children that attend our public schools, I can tell you and I can empathize with all the families out there in Forsyth County. And when we heard this terrible news today, it's like a punch in your stomach. And it takes your breath away, not knowing if your children are safe, if your friends' children are safe, your neighbors' children are safe. And you're in agony until you figure out what's happening and what has gone on. And when you think about the danger that was present at Mount Tabor this afternoon, and I was getting calls from folks who had children that were in Mount Tabor High School, and they were hiding under the desks in fear and not knowing what's going on. Again, as a parent and as the district attorney here, there's really no worse feeling than you can imagine. And among the danger and the chaos that was going on at Mount Tabor this afternoon, what you saw were the heroes in our community. Law enforcement, the men and women in blue and black and gray that don't know what to expect, but they run in to try and protect us, our children, and our family. No greater love hath one for another than to lay down their life for someone else. So to my law enforcement brothers and sisters, colleagues, I thank you so much for what you did today and what you do every day when you get up out of bed and you kiss your loved ones goodbye, not knowing if you're going to see them again. Thank you, law enforcement, for what you did today to keep all the other children there safe. Finally, I would like to say that without commenting on the facts in this particular case, my office takes a zero-tolerance policy as it relates to violence being committed at our schools, one student upon another. Because when each of us, including myself, sends our kids out to school in the morning, we want to know and believe that they are safe. And when law enforcement completes their task and they put their case together, this will be treated as we treat all other crimes committed at schools. We take zero tolerance on violence at any of our schools. And that's my pledge to this community. Say prayers for the young man who passed away today and his family. Say prayers for them. But I also ask you to say prayers that we continue to have people in law enforcement that put a badge on and a bulletproof vest on every single day and go to work and put themselves in harm's way so that we, all of us, can be protected. Thank you, and God bless law enforcement.
So, on behalf of the district, I want to send my condolences and say that our hearts go out to William's family and to everyone impacted by this tragedy. All of the students and staff that were on site that witnessed this tragedy. We are praying for everyone. We're praying for William's family and all of our students and staff We will be sending out in the next few days crisis teams to support our students. I also want to thank law enforcement and the staff at Mount Tabor for their immediate response. We really appreciate what law enforcement did today. Thank you.
Before we take questions, and I might add that questions are going to be very limited, as I mentioned earlier. This investigation is in its preliminary stages. We're just over 4.5 hours, 5 hours from when the incident actually occurred. We are still reuniting students with parents. I did want to mention again the appreciation felt by myself and Sheriff Kimbrough for the assistance from so many of our partners here. I'm not going to mention names because I don't have the list and I know I will miss some names, but I will tell you that I have talked to chiefs and sheriffs from our area, our region, and all have sent support in the form of human resources and equipment to assist us in this incident today. I also want to mention the fact that I did receive a call from the director of the State Bureau of Investigation, Director Bob Schumeyer, who also was offering assistance. So we are extremely grateful for that partnership. I also want to mention the fact that there were some reports, and I want to dispel that information, that more than one student was shot. That is not true. We had one student shot today. We had some students that did suffer what I would call a traumatic incident as a result of this situation. One being a seizure that I know for sure. Another student fell out. So we had a couple of those types of incidents that occurred where we had to provide medical assistance to the students. But there was only one student that was shot today, and unfortunately we lost that student. At this time, myself or Sheriff Kimbrough will take questions.
Can you elaborate through the early stages of your investigation what may have led up to this shooting between this suspect and Mr. Miller? Did this seem like it was something random? Was the suspect on campus for the majority of the day before this happened? Anything that you can tell us at this point?
Well, what I can tell you is that, as Chief Thompson said, the investigation is still active. All I can tell you is that they were both students at Mount Tabor.
What about the scope of the search at this point? Can you kind of detail how much of the city your officers and deputies and the troopers are patrolling and looking for this suspect? And what would you say to anybody that may have information as to where that person may be?
Well, I appreciate that. That was one of the things I was going to lead with, is that any information that you may have, that you think you have, please contact the Winston-Salem Police Department or the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. We'll be glad to have that information as it relates to where we have patrol or where we have deputies at. We pretty much have them panned out all over this county. That is why we have deputies from Thomasville and a few other coming in answering calls. We are actively in an active investigation.
Can you say where in the school the shooting took place?
Again, I can, but I won't, because it's an active investigation. I can just tell you that it took place at the school, because at some point in time, the district attorney's office and the staff will be prosecuting that case. I can just tell you that it took place in the school.
There was some social media chatter around 2 o'clock that the shooter had actually targeted Reynolds High School as well. Do you have any information that the shooter may have wanted to go to other schools? And is there any danger to students tomorrow, and is there a school tomorrow?
Well, I can't speak to is there a school tomorrow. I'll let Ms. McManus speak to that. What I can speak to is that as it relates to what the intent of the shooter was, I couldn't speak to that because I have no knowledge of that. What I can tell you, again, is that both of the students were students at Mount Tabor. And as soon as we know more and that the district attorney allows it to be released, at such time it will be released. But right now, I can just give you what I'm giving you.
In the process of reuniting their children. We were specifically told not to broadcast, and so were the parents. That's what they were telling us, where that location was going to be. I would assume that that was out of safety for all parties involved. You mentioned there's no ongoing threat to Mount Tabor itself. How would you classify this suspect who is still out in the community, and do you believe that there's a threat to any other parts of the community?
Well, in my opinion, anytime you're looking for a person that is wanted or interested in a police investigation, I would consider that person to be dangerous. The reason we moved the location was because basically that number of students, we wanted to be able to accommodate the families coming there, and the places in the area were so congested that we could not do that. So that's why we moved the location. As it relates to not just blurting it out, we did that so that the parents, our concern now was the parents, the healing of those children that were involved in the school, to get them back with their parents and their loved ones. That was the reason behind that.
At this point, do we have a suspect description or name or anything that you can share at this time?
Of course, again, I cannot give any information as it relates to the suspect for several reasons, but I can tell you that there's an active investigation.
Any more information on the victim here? Victim's age, what grade they may have been in, and then if you can elaborate a little bit more on the suspect, maybe the suspect's age or grade, and if you've had any run-ins with them.
I have no knowledge of that. I have no knowledge of how old Mr. Miller is. What I know is that I met with his family. I talked with his mother. At that point, I wasn't concerned with how old he was. I was not. I wasn't concerned what grade he was in. As District Attorney has said, I also having a child in public school, I felt the pain, the tears of the mother, and so my concern was to console her. My concern was to let her know that she had the full support of this entire community, of all of us, because if she's hurting, we are hurting. All of us have children, most of us anyway, and so I can assure you, while I'm sad, I'm also mad as hell, and I can assure you that all the resources that I have will be utilized.
Any extra security measures, safe cruise patrols, or anything like that you can share over the next few days throughout the course of this investigation?
As it relates to?
As it relates to in schools, on campuses over the next few days?
Of course, as it relates to whatever decision, that decision is not mine. What the school does, the school system, that is Ms. McManus' decision when they'll return and what they'll do. But as it relates to the security of the schools, we will always make sure that our children are safe. We will do our level best to do that. And so, as it relates to extra patrol, of course, we will have a lot of people out there. There'll be counselors out there. Because the main thing is that there's a lot of rumor mills out there, and we have to be able to squash those. We have to try to make our children feel normal when they go back to school. And so we're going to do our best to make sure that our children are safe.
Mr. Miller's family, you mentioned his mother, Shannon. You mentioned that you promised to her that you were going to say his entire name at this press conference today. Is there anything else that she wanted you to share with the community? Can you detail more of what that level of grief is like, and possibly the ripple effect that it doesn't just affect his family, it affects the school, it affects the city and the entire county?
I can't detail that kind of grief. I felt grief in my life. I've seen grief, but I don't know the grief of losing a child. I don't even know how to fathom that. I just don't. I can tell you what I saw. I can tell you what I felt. What she said to me was, "Kimbo, my baby." And I told her I was going to do everything that I could to find out and bring whoever was responsible for this. And down here, I called him because I wasn't gonna say his name. I wasn't. As most of you know, that my first responsibility is to the family in times like this. And she said, say his name. And that's why I said his full name.
A lot of the parents that were out there, some of them, of course, all of them expressing concerns for their children, but some of them also saying, what is it going to take to stop things like this from happening across the country? We've seen new levels of violence. All of your agencies have detailed that over the last months and years. So what is the answer to that question? How do you stop this from happening again?
I have an opinion. I think that it's going to take all of us. I think it's going to take, as we say, all hands on deck. I think that we're in some difficult times. We are. We will have a discussion, myself, the chief, and the superintendent, what I think we should do. And we're going to figure out together with the district attorney, can we do what I want to do legally? But right now, we're going to discuss what I want to do and how I feel until I talk with the partners involved, Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Manners, Chief Thompson. But I appreciate you asking the question.
Do you have any indication this is gang related at all?
Again, as I said, this is early in the investigation. I think 4 hours and 30 minutes we're into. There's so many moving parts right now. First thing is to locate. So there's so many things that are still yet to be done. I've been moving since 12:05, 12:07, and so I have no way of knowing that question as of yet. I have no way of knowing the answer to that question. What I would like to say to the public is that allow law enforcement to do their job. A lot of information that you may see out there, disregard. As Chief Thompson said, there was only one person shot. So I have no information as it relates to that question.
At any point, did any of your deputies see the suspect?
Again, that's part of the investigation, and I will be way out of order to discuss what my deputies saw. Of course, you know that my deputies are there at the school, but I cannot discuss what they saw. That will be Mr. O'Neill's office. That's an active investigation as to what is going on. So, two is a part of the investigation, so I cannot go into the particulars.
Do you have surveillance video, and is that going to be helpful in your investigation, do you think?
Again,
As I mentioned earlier, we have information where we believe that we are talking about another Mount Tabor student, as I mentioned that earlier. So at this time, what we are doing is our full investigation into this case. If we have any video footage, it will be part of that investigation. But our primary concern is the safety of all of our children. We have a mother and a family who will not be able to hug their child tonight. We're doing everything we can, and that's why I thought it was important to mention all of the other resources we have in our city and our county at this time to get the suspect in custody. That is our commitment, and that is our priority at this time. I think at this time, we're going to go ahead and end the questions, and as soon as we can provide additional information that will be meaningful and beneficial to you all, we are committed to doing so. Again, please pray for the family who lost their son today, and also pray for all of our students and our community. Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate you.
thank you.